Hi, Vanessa. Hi, Sherry. Hi, John. Hi, Robin. Marnell. Hi, Jean.
Good morning.
Good morning. Okay.
Good morning
So-
from Rhode Island.
Yeah, so great. Thanks for joining us. Hi, Christina. All right. Here we are. Wow. So, for those of you who are new here, or whatever, I'm getting ready to leave. I fly away on Friday. So this is a bit emotional for me. It's not like I'm going away forever. I will come teach other times, but it's a bit shocking. So shall I be the one who puts up prayers and stuff?
It's up to you, like.
I mean, I'm happy to do it because then I'm in control.
Okay.
So am I a host?
Yes.
Okay. Oh, I'm just so transparent. So just take a moment for me to catch my breath. And one of the uses of bringing your attention to your breath, or the feel of the chair against your body or the cushion against your body, is that it really helps you bring your mind here, as opposed to what you're doing later or what you just did or whatever conversation you've got going in your head. By bringing your focus to a specific part of the body, like the breath or something, it can verify for you that you're present in this, in now, and what you're doing now. So it's very useful to start things, at least with that effort. And then remember the reason you decided to show up. And you can always pat yourself on the back for following through on your intention to show up. But using that reason, try to generate a motivation or a positive intention to use your time well based on that reason. And just expand it out, that you hope it not just benefits yourself, but those directly around you, but that it ripples out to benefit all sentient beings. This, whatever benefit occur. So recite the 4 measurables on page 34 of the gold book, or if you can read the TV screen. So really try to gather a group of loved ones in your mind, invite their friends, invite even more friends, friends of your friends. So that as we say these words, you have a clear view of it going out to benefit others. We just keep expanding the circle. May all sentient beings have happiness and the causes of happiness. May all sentient beings be free from suffering and the causes of suffering. May all sentient beings be inseparable from the happiness that is free from suffering. Well, I'm not very good at this. May all sentient beings abide in equanimity, free from attachment for friends and hatred for enemies. And we'll recite the Refuge of Bodhicitta prayer on page 98. I go for refuge until I'm enlightened to the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Supreme Assembly. By the merits I create through listening to the Dharma, may I become a Buddha in order to benefit all sentient beings. I go for refuge until I'm enlightened to the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Supreme Assembly. By the merits I create through listening to the Dharma, may I become a Buddha in order to benefit all sentient beings. I go for refuge until I'm enlightened to the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Supreme Assembly. By the merits I create through listening to the Dharma, may I become a Buddha in order to benefit all sentient beings. So how's it going? How's your mind? Yeah. Do you have one? If you don't have one, that might be a better start. So, so we've been talking about the 7-point mind training. Is that correct? I got the title right. I'm nervous. So, Marianne, yay! I'm glad to see you. Oh. So I know we talked about putting on armor. Anybody else remember that?
Yeah.
Do you know if we talked about don't apply a wrong understanding? Okay. So for those of you who haven't been here, 7-point mind training is a method that just guides you through what to focus on what to adopt, and what to abandon, like behaviors of the mind. Because this is all about thought. Hal, do you need something?
No, I'm
Okay, it's okay. There is a chair available, 2 chairs. I'm worried about those who very kindly volunteered to sit on a cushion. So, and there, I like that. Okay. No one ever comes to the front row. It's like, I know, I'm so scary. And I will call on you and ask, and pop quiz questions.
So you gotta like set an example in the front row. So like, you're like showpiece.
Yes, it's kind of true. Okay, I lost. No, I don't. Okay. Oh, yes. So most of the things in here come down to just a couple of points, really. But we're not very good at really interpreting those points always. So the rest of the text is more specific so that we, can kind of get some guidance on, what does it mean to be compassionate? What does it mean to be loving? What does it mean to try to benefit others? you know, so we're just looking at different ways that we actually do hurt each other without, you know, because this is what we're good at. But how we might want to catch ourselves going, oh yeah, I do that, you know. So for me, when I first read this text, um, you know, the one about don't lie in ambush was really, I do that, you know, where you kind of collect little things your partner's done wrong and then pull them out and, you know, in an argument when you know, want to prove yourself right. Um, you know, and it just hit me like a slap in the face, you know, and just like I realized, oh, I really do that. I hold things so that I can feel, you know, like I'm not the only one doing bad things around here. So are you, you know, kind of thing, which is just a terrible way to live. You know, it's not a happy mind. So it's, so this was a very important text to me in the beginning. I read this before I met, you know, before I became a nun, and it really helped me change a lot of habits that were destructive and harmful. Um, but it's, you know, so it all kind of comes down to this point, you know, about guarding our actions of body, speech, and mind to do no harm, and to do no harm even at the, you know, where you but I have to protect myself kind of way. This does not include situations where you're being abused or somebody else is being abused and you need to intervene, all those kind of things, or you need to walk away. It is not about that. It's just about not being the person who's abusing. That your speech, that your thoughts aren't full of hatred, or, you know, that they're full of compassion for the suffering minds of others. That does not mean tolerating the behavior or the speech of others. If they're, you know, it's not about that. It's about recognizing that suffering minds can do terrible things. We want to have compassion for them. We want to have compassion for ourselves when we come from a place of suffering. But we also want to stop dumping that suffering onto others, you know, because it doesn't actually make us feel better. You know, it's not, it's, you know, this dog eat dog kind of world. Well, yeah, we can create that. We have created that. But is that how we want to live? So it's just, you know, so, you know, this wish that people are happy doesn't mean we want you to be happy doing harm. You know, it's that we understand that maybe some people, many people don't have tools to figure out what happiness actually is and how to get it, how to get there, you know. So, so having compassion for people who don't have any tools. Um, Having love for everyone equally, knowing that if everybody were happy, free of suffering, we wouldn't harm each other. You know? So one of the things about don't apply a wrong understanding is often, you know, like sometimes when we're doing a practice, it's hard. It's physically hard. Like if you're doing a long retreat or something, it can be physically hard on your knees. It can be, you get up in early hours. You go to sleep, you know, you're sleepy. It can be hard. You're trying to work on your mind, and all you can think about is really how long is this session going to last? Sometimes we feel sorry for people in that kind of experience, you know, oh, that must have been hard, you know, blah, blah, blah. Like when when I took my full vows, I had to kneel on concrete for a long time. And, you know, it wasn't fun, I can assure you. And, you know, I'm swaying, but you never need to feel sorry for suffering in the name of practice. You know, that's when we can rejoice, because Buddhas don't suffer at all, because they've removed all the causes of suffering. So those of us who are trying to put into practice something that's difficult for us, even when it's just don't open your mouth, don't open your mouth, don't say anything, don't roll your eyes, don't roll your eyes, whatever it is, that's not a hardship. That's the effort we need to learn how to make in order to change our habits. And that's excellent. When people get sick, our custom is to go, oh, that sounds terrible. I'm so sorry. Well, in Buddhism, it actually means you're purifying some, or you're exhausting, and scratch that word, not purifying, but you're exhausting some negative thing that's ripening. Now that's kind of advanced. My first response when I'm sick is, oh, poor me, but it's good to develop the habit of recognizing, oh, this is part of my karma, and it's a negative thing ripening. So I'm exhausting some way I harmed someone else in the past. And so that's a good thing. Doesn't mean you don't get medicine. Doesn't mean, you prolong it. It just means that, it lightens the burden of whatever you're experiencing physically. It just sort of like goes, oh, okay, So that's another way. So basically, this wrong understanding is a way to kind of remember things like karma, remember things, and just this is not, again, karma is not about judging our past actions, about judging other people's situations and, oh, they must have been really bad. It's not about that, because we've all been really bad in some past life. I mean, look at the world history. If it's all us, again, life after life after life, we've done all those things in our history that's so ugly. So it's just a matter of going, but there's a way that I can prevent this kind of experience in the future. And that starts with me and my mind, and guarding my body, speech, and mind, so I don't do harm. So another way we can apply wrong understanding is by being patient with our disturbing emotions, with our greed, with our anger, with our impatience, with our miserliness, with our, I can't think of all of them. There are lots. So now notice it's not being patient with the disturbing emotion. That's a mental state, right? It's not saying don't be patient with yourself, because disturbing emotions will arise. Even when you're working on them, they'll arise again and again and again. It takes a lot of effort and consistent practice for them to kind of subside. And that's how it is. It's like, no big deal. That's, we can't get to a place where we've changed our habits until we go through this very messy process of noticing, oh, that thought, I don't want to follow that, and, and just shutting up and not doing anything until that way of thinking in your mind kind of passes. You don't feed it to give it any power. So, we need patience for ourselves and for each other. We need kindness for ourselves and for each other. We need compassion for ourselves and each other. That is really critical to hanging in there with changing habits. It takes time, and it takes a kind of a really loving attitude towards yourself, to remind yourself that it is really, you are so worth protecting your mind. Your mind is so valuable. It has the capacity to become a Buddha. It is incredibly important. And so protecting that mind from self-criticism, for all the things that we're trying to change that we do to others, like criticizing them, judging them, all those things that we do in our own mind about ourselves, that's a mind we don't want to practice. That's a habit we want to give up. And the way to do that is through just recognizing, in little shorthand. Oh, I'm not a Buddha yet. So, I'll keep trying, Any questions about that? Am I just repeating myself? Okay. So when we set intentions, we want to make sure the 8 worldly concerns are not in our intentions, that we're not doing things to become famous. We're not doing things to get praise from others, that we're not doing things to avoid challenging conversation. We're not trying to look at anything that's about worldly gain, or even trying to stop our mundane concerns about loss and infamy and what are the other ones. I'm really not good at lists this weekend.
Notoriety,
Yeah, criticism. Yeah, the 4 things we don't like. We like fame, we like gain, we like praise, we like pleasure. We don't like loss, we don't like infamy or whatever, notoriety, whatever, criticism. We don't like
loss.
thank you, and pain. We don't want that to be the motivation in our intentions, those kinds of things, because they're just about very temporary states. We really want to think in terms of, oh, I'd like to harm people less. I'd like to be able to remember how to benefit others. Not, it's not about me. I want to be that way. The road to happiness is about learning how to benefit others. So you just look for the I in the situation and you kind of go, is that okay that my I is here? Or is it really showing that I'm trying to manipulate a situation, or I'm trying to get just what I want? I'm not thinking of others at all. All that kind of stuff. We want to lessen the presence of the I in what we do. Like rejoicing sort of like celebrating our good deeds, good thoughts, good actions, whether they're teeny tiny, tiny or great big, and we want to rejoice in everybody else's. And when good karma ripens for others, we want to rejoice in that. We don't want to ever rejoice for bad things happening to others. That kind of, well, they deserved it. Really? Someday it's going to be you. And we don't want to have that callous attitude towards suffering. So even I had to practice this first watching movies. Just really not cheering for the good guys versus the bad guys. And it's not like you wanted the bad guys to get what they wanted. It's just that you didn't want to cheer for when they're all slaughtered. Not a good look. Because that feeds the energy of, oh, if I could just kill everybody I don't like, I'll be happy. That leads to people like Hitler.
You feel bad for their karma, no?
Yes, you feel bad for their karma ripening, that they have no tools to see what they're doing. That all that stuff. It doesn't mean don't fight back. It just means you don't hate them. You understand they're very disturbed individuals. That changes us for the better. That's why we have so many heroes that were nonviolent, protesters or civil disobedience. That the way in which they did things to try to affect change wasn't through hating others. So we just want to watch things like that. So don't be sporadic. It means we want to try to develop some consistency. And if that just means we're consistently keeping our mouths shut, that's a start. That's where we start. In fact, where we start. It's not that we start with, oh, it just doesn't even come up in my mind. No, no, no. Until you realize emptiness, realize how things actually exist exactly as they are, it will keep coming up because that's what demolishes all those habits. So what we can do now is use our effort, use our logic that, oh, I really don't want to act that way. I don't want to say that. I don't want to blah, 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 blah. And so you don't. You learn how to not do it. Doesn't mean the thought doesn't arise. It just means you learn how not to act on the thought. The thoughts do not have to dictate what we do. We can control our choices of what we do next. And the more we do that, more of our thoughts are less demanding of negative action. Because they lose some of their power if you don't give them attention. Hey, Eugenia. Okay. Practice unflinching. I can't say that. Unflinchingly. Thanks. So this is about, like being brave when your point of view is not popular. Like you don't join into the gossiping, judgmental, and conversation that's happening at the table. You speak up when it's, when other people are doing harm. That you don't allow your mind to be fed by commercials, by social media. There's all sorts of garbage out there that we listen to or watch or blah, blah, blah. And it feeds our negative states of mind. So we want to, just either not go there at all because it's not good for your mind. And the only things I look at on Instagram are sort of those good news things. It's the only thing. I won't listen to I won't look at anything else. I don't doom scroll, I happy scroll. I just look for good news, because some days I need to hear good news. Oh, and there's a lot of it. So, but we don't need to know the details of everybody's life all over the world. You just don't need that. So we really want to look carefully at what we're exposing our very precious minds to. And so we need to be aware, mindful that we really are influenced by all this. Marketing works. So we want to not be a target. And the best way to do that is to turn it off. That's the only thing I can say about, and it's not true anymore. Easy come, easy go. Like when cable TV and streaming came, there were no commercials. It's like, oh, this is good. Now you only have, even public TV now has to show little commercials, they don't at least interrupt things, but it's, there we are. So we want to be aware, so we want to be able to not do what everybody else is doing just because everybody else is doing it. That it just is socially acceptable to trash people. It's just socially acceptable to, feed your anger. It's socially acceptable to do these things. You want to be willing to go against the stream. Be liberated by examination and analysis. This is where you're just watchful. You're observing your mind. You kind of notice what's going on, and you apply antidotes. You apply, you just stop. You get those pauses there so that you don't act on those thoughts, or you start to notice. You go, that's not even true what I'm telling myself. So that you can lessen the power of the way we think. And when we hear things from others, we want to do the same thing. We want to kind of go, okay. You don't have to say anything. It's just like, okay, I see the logic of that. you know, no, I've done it, but so you're trying to give that up. Don't be boastful. You don't take every opportunity to show other people how they should rejoice for your actions, and we don't want to say things to others that are like, oh, I used to do that, but now I've got control and I do this instead. If somebody asks you for advice, if somebody says, notice that you don't seem to get as angry as you used to, or you don't seem to get impatient like you used to, blah, 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 then you can share what you're doing. That's not boasting, that's teaching and guiding, or just helping out. I hope this advice is helpful to you. It may not be, but it has to be asked for. It doesn't mean we don't rejoice in our action. It's just private, personal. Otherwise we're doing it for praise. It's just really hard not to say it out loud, not wanting praise. One thing to say it out loud to check, to kind of go, does that sound like I'm on the right track? Another thing to just say it, out of that kind of pride, or even if even if the pride's not there at all, or you think it's not there at all, it's kind of a tricky path. Don't be short-tempered. I should read that a lot. This is where pausing is essential. When you start to feel hooked, to just make yourself pause. And that is if you're quick to anger or quick to say something, that kind of stuff, you really have to practice pausing a lot, because you won't pause a lot. But but you can develop that habit of pausing. And one of the ways to develop it is to, when you regret having said something and you remember that. So that in your pause, you can remember how this never turns out well when I let loose my temper, my sarcasm, or my words of, grief. So whatever. Don't make a short-lived attempt. This is this kind of thing. This is not a weekend warrior practice. This is something you try to do a little every day. Because you'll be caught up in things, and all of a sudden you go, oh, 5 hours have passed, and I haven't thought about a single other person in all that. I haven't guarded my body, speech, or mind in all that time. That's all right. You just start again. And eventually you just do it more often. So that's the good news. Partly because you feel better about yourself. You have more self-respect because you're not a loose cannon, And so that's nice. People have trouble speaking up, then you have to take a pause, gather courage, and speak up. These are not easy things to do. We've had lifetimes of practice not doing them. So that's where we have to be very gentle with ourselves, kind with ourselves, and still try again. Don't expect gratitude. Big teaching. This is really a big point. As long as we hold on to a tit for tat kind of kindness, where we get disappointed that people aren't saying thank you, we've set up an emotional contract with people who have not signed anything. And it takes all that goodness out of it. Because then you're just doing it for something for you. So that's a really, really important issue.
And the opposite is a good idea as well.
What's the opposite?
Be profuse with our thanks and our gratitude.
Right? Yes, exactly. Rejoice in their kindness, It's just, yes, and it's just, so this is, you really want to, when you're about to help someone, give someone something, whatever it is, you want to pause and remind yourself, it doesn't matter how they respond. I can, it's coming from my direction, and that's all we have control over, and that's all we should need. Because that's what feeds our own happiness. Waiting for reward, waiting to see if they give you just as good of a gift back, and waiting to see if, you seem to be helping them more than they help you. Yes, we have to gauge our energy. We don't want to do anything with resentment, but we just need to know that having that agenda is a disturbing emotion. We're not at peace because we want something and we might not get it. We might get it, but during that moment in between where we're waiting for it, that's called craving, and it's not pleasant. Okay, so this is the last one. They kind of go, they say the ultimate awakening mind. This is when you have the wish to become enlightened for the benefit of all sentient beings 24/7. It's become a main mind. So it influences every thought you have. The path is much easier after this is accomplished. We're in the hard stage because we may not have that yet, so ultimate awakening mind, ultimate bodhicitta, is when you've realized emptiness. So now the mind that realizes emptiness is conjoined with the mind that has 24/7 bodhicitta, So that's a very advanced state. They're not a Buddha yet, but it's a very advanced state. So to get there, we want to develop compassion and our conventional awakening mind, which means we make the effort to set that intention. We make the effort to dedicate any positive results that we may have accumulated to benefit others. So we just practice at bringing that to mind as much as we can. Using the practice of Tonglen, of being able to breathe out, breathe in other people's suffering, breathe out what they might need, as a way to keep that on your mind all the time. As you learn to just have it, with your breath, with your breathing, that becomes this great reminder that, you want to watch, guard your speech and actions of body, as if you're practicing this. It's a great tool when you're waiting anywhere, so but you have to remember to do it, and then you have to try it out, and then you have to feel stupid about it, and then you do it again, and then you feel less stupid about it, and then whatever, we all have crazy minds, I assume. I'm making an assumption on the fact that we haven't realized emptiness. That means we have deluded minds driven by ignorance. So, questions?
There's a secret teaching, like it's timeline form of that secret teaching, or is it just?
It has been in the past, because it's kind of advanced. People go, they call it the suffering of others. What are you talking about? But also it's a secret teaching in that you're not talking about it. It's just something you do. It's not something you say, so it's not we do it we do it together, but it's not, it's something that it's on the breath. It's just like that. So This is why, Tonglen being an advanced practice, this is why the teachings say, start with yourself. So the first person you want to remove their suffering and fill them with all the qualities good qualities that they need is you. And the easiest way to do that is to think about some future event. Oh, I'm going to have that tough conversation with so-and-so next week, or I'm going to have to, whatever. I mean, it can be anything. And you imagine that happening, that situation arising, and you imagine that you have all those things you need to be patient, to not be fearful, not, so that you can handle whatever comes up, so you're acknowledging in advance you have those qualities. And this will be an opportunity to have confidence that you can do it. Does that make sense? So you start there. And then you can, your child's going to be doing something difficult, or your partner's going to be doing something difficult, or your grandparents or your parents, all these things you can practice with them. And then eventually you won't need a label. You could just practice it for everybody. And it's really easy to do when you're in the hospital, visiting someone, or in the waiting room, all those kind of things. Like if you're in the doctor's waiting room, you can, you can do it for all the people that have been there that day, all the people who might get really bad news that day, so it's just a way of recognizing that even though we don't know it, we're surrounded with people who are going through extreme challenges all the time. There's somebody near us that is, this is what I told you. I discovered at the lunch line at Chenrezig when I was living in a nuns community. And it was also a teaching facility, retreat center. While we were waiting in line, I'd see all these, all the lay people that were coming, and they'd be having a conversation with their friend. They're talking about cancer. They were talking about Alzheimer's. They were talking about, domestic abuse. They were talking about child abuse. They were talking about all these things that they were experiencing in their life that they were really, really worried about, and struggling with. And it's just that slap in the face, like, oh my goodness, yes.
It seems like in the past I've used Tonglen when I'm in the grips of despair.
Yeah.
But this teaching today is a good reminder that you don't have to be in the depths of despair.
Yeah.
But it is a valuable tool that you can use
All the time.
all the time.
And in fact, it's good to do it all the time, because then when you're in the depths of despair, you'll know how. It's like, because that's the thing about practice, is when we really need the tool, if we haven't been practicing, it will not come up. Our old habits will come up. So this is why it's helpful, to just spend 5 minutes a day calming your mind and thinking of others, and recognizing that what's going on for you today, you're not the only one that it's going on for, and so you have compassion for all of you that are going through it. Well, and if you happen to have, nothing's particularly going on for you, then you rejoice that you have these good conditions, and you think of all those people who don't, and have compassion for that. And these are ways that it helps us just develop the habit of taking that angle with our thoughts. Okay, and so, this last little bit, about consider all phenomena as like dreams, examine the nature of unborn awareness. The remedy itself is released in its own place. This is, all about meditating on emptiness and reflecting the lack of inherent existence. It's at this level because that's a very advanced practice, trying to so when you're a beginner in Buddhism, You know, it's like you get a little tiny taste that things don't exist the way they appear to. You know, like you go to a physics class and you discover, oh, things don't appear like they exist. You know, it's like that, but actually then trying to you know, so you don't expect to understand subjects like that right away. You know, it takes time, takes good teachers, it takes all sorts of things, you know, so and it takes a lot of merit. You have to do a lot of those good deeds and thinking about others and all that stuff to remove the obstacles to understanding it. The remedy itself is released in its own place. This is why we need teaching. Remedy itself is released in its own place. Even the person that's meditating on emptiness is empty of inherent existence. I wouldn't have gotten that from that little sentence. You know, but that just the remedy to all our suffering, which is this understanding. You know, if we remove the foundation of all our disturbing emotions, all our delusions, which is that we think things inherently exist. We think things have characteristics from their own side. We think all these things. We don't actually think them. We just assume them. We just act as if it's so. So the remedy to all of that even the person realizing that who now has the remedy is also empty of inherent existence. It's not like a Buddha doesn't change moment to moment. But the mind of a Buddha changes just like our mind, moment to moment. It just never changes in the wrong direction. It's never, you know, it's never diluted. It's never anything because that mind is always in a state of meditative equipoise with emptiness. Never leaves it. It no longer has a conceptual mind. Yeah, those blank stares. I mean, yeah, okay. Place the essence of the path on the nature of the basis of all. This is basically getting at, you know, if we know that, if we realize this lack of inherent existence, we'll no longer have a misconception of how we exist. The fact of dependent arising, that everything is a dependent arising, which is the king of reasons, as they say, for the absence of inherent existence. Something that inherently exists never changes, can't produce anything, can't be a cause or an effect. And everything is that. You know, our mind changes moment to moment. It's dependent on a previous moment of mind. It's dependent on a previous moment of that mind. Same with all things physical. We know this with physical things. We've all had science, you know. The Buddha wasn't teaching from a place of having a science education. We've caught up, you know, so it's just, you know, it's this, you know, the physical cause and effect is a clue about how everything is. We're just, you know, the Buddha just added consciousness into the mix, you know, that our consciousness and all this physicality, you know, have causes and effects, you know, just like, you know, there was vegetation on this planet before farmers arose, you know. But if you want crops, you need a farmer with an idea, and then who implements that idea, and then conditions have to be right. Da 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 da. It's all dependent arising. But consciousness has a part. And physicists now are looking even more at how consciousness might be a force. So there we go. So now we've covered physics, we've covered. Okay. In between meditation sessions, be like a conqueror, a creator of illusions. So this is just understanding that everything that all appearances to us are illusory. They're like an illusion because they appear in a way they don't exist. And if you, once you, so you want to see the fact that, oh, this appears this way, but it doesn't exist this way. So we're now, people who've realized emptiness are in this or this, they know everything around them is like an illusion. And when you're out of samsara, when you're liberated and when you become enlightened, nothing appears again inaccurate. There are no false appearances because it's our ignorance that creates them. So, yeah, okay. Questions? Nothing in the chat. Okay, that's the end of this teaching. Okay, yeah.
T-shirt motto, life is but a dream and I lack existence. That pretty much sums it up.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. And meanwhile, we have to practice ethics, kindness.
In the back.
Yeah, it's a long list too. It might go down to the genes, but it's those are the two wings. And when you just start, kind of questioning how things appear to us, it's just like when we're convinced that the person that just came into the room, is a jerk. We need to understand that that appearance to us is totally from our side. It's from our perspective, our experiences. It has no facts in it. Because no one's inherently a jerk. It just doesn't exist. Yeah, Rebecca.
Do you know of an accessible, that's the key word, text, even something contemporary that discusses the different levels of the realization of emptiness?
You mean,
Everyone is so good. I love it.
Huh.
Remember the one
Right.
that's like the green one?
the freedom?
About it was about it's about realizing.
Okay, it's either, what is the word of that?
It's called give me a second.
Freedom from understanding or,
Come back to me.
well, there's virtue and reality is one of them. And there's something like freedom from understanding, something like that, but I don't remember. There's a Lamayashi. Yeah. So, this is a very personal thing. If you read a text, if you're reading some little text and you like freak out, you might want to find another one. Or you might want to keep plowing through that one that freaks you out and just kind of realize, nothing to freak out about. Nothing in the Buddhist teachings deny any aspect of our existence. What it denies is our view of our existence, that we have an inaccurate view due to our ignorance. It's not saying we don't exist at all. There's nothing in the teachings that contradict, conventional existence. Emptiness is about that ultimately we have existence because nothing inherently exists. Yes, sir.
Yeah, she book. Things exist.
That's it.
teachings on
That's it. How's it?
Teachings on it.
Thank you.
That's all.
Yeah, Lamayashi.
This was something more technical than that, though. Because I read something once about Alex Berzin, and it was like the technical, sort of the stages of realizing emptiness it's not just like suddenly you realize
No.
full emptiness.
No
But the different
levels of it.
attainments.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I can't remember what it was called.
Well, I mean, it's an all Lam Rim text pretty much. And so, like one of the steps, this isn't about the realization of emptiness, in order to be able to realize emptiness, you need to have a full control over your concentration. So you go through this, so you develop your concentration. That takes 9 stages of getting a stronger and stronger ability to hold the focus of your meditation. Now when you trying to meditate and say even if you're just meditating on your breath, you forget it. You need the kind of concentration that would never forget it. You could almost say can't forget it. You have such a sharp focus and such an ability to focus. And that's called calm abiding, serenity, Shinei in Tibetan, shamatha, is that right? In Sanskrit. That you can hold your focus on the object no matter what you're doing. You can be washing the dishes. That's not what you choose to be doing, but I mean, so you take that so that takes time. So it's you can do, and you don't have to be Buddhist to do that. I mean, this is in all sorts of Indian traditions, all kinds of things. I mean, that's just concentration, the ability to develop your concentration. So then, though, you want to place that highly disciplined mind, and your subject will be like the emptiness of the mind, or the emptiness of the self, or the emptiness of a car, so that you can hold your attention on that object. And you're still alternating between that single pointed concentration and remembering all the different logic of why things don't inherently exist. That takes lots of study, And then some part of that's going to settle. Or you might even have an experience of something like that, like an experience of impermanence, And then you go back to single pointed concentration. So you're doing this back and forth thing. You can do that because now that you have the kind of concentration, you can go in and out of it with no problem, with no error. This leads to an inferential understanding of emptiness, realization of emptiness that's valid, that's totally correct. Things still appear to you as all, inherently existent, but you now know what the object of negation is, you know what inherent existence is, and nothing exists that way, and you've done it, and it's correct. Your view is correct. That eventually, keep meditating, keep applying that calm abiding mind to that with the special insight that you now have, that will propel the mind to have the power to have a direct experience of emptiness. That's called the path of seeing. In that moment, you actually experience the absence of inherent existence. That's considered an ultimate mind. Nothing arises to that mind. There's no apparent arising. Because your object of what you were seeking was inherent existence, and it doesn't exist. So you can't find anything. When you have that experience, and over many times, then you have uprooted the ignorance. All your negative habits will just disappear. They won't have any foundation to stand on. That's how we get liberated from samsara. And we no longer have to take uncontrolled rebirth in this cycle. You don't suffer anymore because there's no foundation for suffering. Because it's our ignorance that causes suffering. Then we have a few more things to do to remove the habit of that. They call it like, how when you remove garlic or onion out of a bag and even though you've washed it, there's still the smell, the faint smell. You have to get rid of that before you can become fully enlightened. So you're already liberated, but you just have some more work to do. So if you call it work, I'm sure it's not work, but there's no suffering anymore. There's no, what you don't have yet is omniscience. I know that's probably not what you were talking about at all, but
Yeah, it's fine. It was very, for me, I know everyone is different in what they, but it was really clear and succinct, and it was an Alex version.
Yeah, you'll probably find it there. If you just go, all his stuff is on that line,
Website.
all of it. So you just you look up emptiness and you keep looking up maybe stages of empty or realization, keep looking that up. And Alex Berson's a great resource for people who have been studying for a while. He uses different jargon than like Lama Yeshe does, or it's just different jargon. He's a translator, so he has his own, his choice of oh, this is a better translation of this. So when you first start reading it, it can be confusing, really confusing. So but he really, it's an unbelievably generous website. It's called studybuddhism.com. So there's a lot of, you can just, search for anything and you'll find way more information than you ever wanted to see. And it's very scholarly as well. So you have to look for the stuff that's not so scholarly. Oh, Berzin. But you really just studybuddhism.com. And so there's also information on the stages of concentration, where it tells you, the first stage of meditation is considered when you can hold your mind on the object for like 2 seconds, I think it is, maybe 12 seconds. So don't be concerned about learning how to meditate. It really is hard to hold our focus. We get distracted quite quickly. And that is just habit. We all know we can focus because we do, if you know how to do anything, pretty much, if you know how to drive a car, if you know how to, you've been able to apply your ability to concentrate. What mostly we need to do is learn to develop a motivation for learning how to concentrate for its own sake, so that we can apply it to everything, not just for our job, not just to get a good grade, not just to, whatever it is we do, it's we have to be open to developing a concentration that then we can apply it to, whatever we're reading, whatever we're thinking about, and we're so used to doing things for the purpose of livelihood or fame or all those things that we get caught up in, that just doing it because it will help our minds for some spiritual reason, we have a little more trouble. So, but if you've ever been watching a movie or reading a book where, your partner goes, "Did you hear me?" and you didn't at all, you can concentrate. I mean, it's just the truth. All concentration means is not being distracted from the object, So we have to start developing this idea that, oh, it might be really worthwhile to develop that concentration in meditation. So that we want to do it, because it's not going to be entertaining the way a movie or a book is. So you have to have a different motivation. Okay, that's it. I have thank yous to make. So, any last burning question?
Have you ever been a car mechanic or a plumber?
Me?
Because when you give us teachings for our mind, you give us the nuts and bolts.
Aha! Very clever.
As opposed to telling us, love your neighbor like yourself. You tell us when you stub your foot, you shouldn't be screaming obscenities. Just don't take that path.
And blaming the poor step.
Right.
You
But
know?
well, you give us down-to-earth information
I
for life.
see.
People who are raising children in Buddhist countries, do they keep their children from a young age?
No, not at all. None of the Tibetans do. Lay people just supported monastics. And they figured next life, and the monastics depended on the lay people. I mean, they wouldn't have had food, it's just, so, we're not supposed to be working in mundane jobs or anything. So, that's why you beg for food. That's why all those kind of stuff. So no, they don't. I don't know whether that's if in Vietnam, if it was different, or in, I don't know. Thailand, it might be different. I just know about, I think it is different in some of the South Asian countries. But in Tibet, they did not. They would tell them stories that appear, just like we tell children the stories. So their altars have little carvings on them and they go, oh, you see this elephant? And they tell them. So we can't say they had a head start. But of course, the monks and nuns go to the monasteries and nunneries at young ages. So, they don't have any vows other than they're asked to try not to kill anything, and they don't study, but they are, again, just like parents do. They are taught how to behave, and how to think about how they behave and stuff like that. So mostly, their studies don't start till they're at least like 16 or something. So, they all just learn to memorize, rituals and text and stuff. And they go to school now. Now that they've come to West, they have schools for younger people, because the Tibetans don't have any money when they escape over the Himalayas. So, so the monasteries are one opportunity for youth to be educated. And there's no obligation to stay. They don't want people to stay who don't want to be a monk or not, so. But now they have curriculums, Lama Zopa Rinpoche's monastery in Nepal, Kapan Monastery, they started a whole program on schooling, to make sure the kids could, if they decided they didn't want to stay in the monastic life, they could just, that would have skills. They could go to a college or they could go to a high school or wherever they are, because they had an educational curriculum. So. And I don't know much about, I've never been to Tibet, no idea. When I got on this path, I was on the Buddha's path. The culture, all that stuff had nothing to do with my karma ripening around this. And it's, I first started studying under Thich Nhat Hanh's tradition, and he was a Vietnamese Buddhist monk, Zen master. And then when I realized that I wasn't going to ordain in his tradition, I sought out places to meditate, places to do things. I bumped into a Tibetan Buddhist center in Raleigh, North Carolina. I still can't believe that. And I met Venerable Rabina, and that was all she wrote. Yes, I've been going to the center for 2 months. I asked her how to become a nun. Karma ripening's really funny, but I was on the Buddhist path. I didn't know much about, and I didn't ordain for another 4 years, but I think 2 years maybe. But I really didn't know much about Tibetan Buddhism. I ordained. I didn't know until after I ordained and started going to study, in a nuns community. And, I was just I knew I wanted to be on the Buddhist path. So, and I am a student. So, no surprise, I ended up in a very academic oriented tradition. So, because I love to study. But, so anyway, that's enough about me. So I want to take a little time to thank, can you bring me my little bag? Oh, by the way, there's I don't know why I did that. I need to sit there. This is some water bowls that match our medicine Buddha bowls that I haven't. Oh, and they were mine. I paid for them. I didn't steal them from the center, I promise. So. No, I didn't. I mean, we bought them at the dollar store. Or somebody, Rebecca, Nicole and I, somebody, I think it was Rebecca. So anyway, so centers like this everywhere in the world survive because of people who are doing things behind the scenes, So we have a board. Nonprofits have to have boards. I mean, I think that's a rule, so, we have a board that helps try to keep us financially solvent, that tries to keep us, figuring out how to get enough money to pay the lights, because no one gives us money except you, the people who come. We don't have some organization that pays for us. Tibetans didn't have any money when all the fundraising done by Lama Zopa Rinpoche and Lama Yeshe, went to the Tibetan monasteries to help. They didn't even have, before Lama Zopa Rinpoche started the food fund, they didn't get, they got one little meal at lunch, so he made sure that everybody got an egg so they had protein, and then they finally got, I think it's 3 meals a day. Maybe it's 2 meals a day.
Right now.
It's 3 now. So, and now it's self-funding. Nobody has to give any more money to them for the food fund because it's how those things work. I don't know how those things work. But, it's invested in whatever. So from the interest, it supports 3,000 monks in one monastery and however how many Kopan has, I don't know. So a bunch of monks and nunneries. So the centers, all the FPMT centers are self-supporting. They also pay a fee to the FPMT to pay for the affiliation rights. It's a nominal kind of stipend. So we can use all their educational materials and all that kind of stuff, and have a lineage so that people can trust that we come from somewhere. We're just not doing our own thing, that we have a lineage that goes back to the Buddha. So to keep all that running, we have a board of directors. Is that what it's called? We have a board. Anyway, so we have people here who I think we're just missing one, Hope. So it's just, so let's see. Hello. Rebecca?
You can go to her chair. I'm interrupting.
Oh, yeah, go
You're not
ahead.
interrupting.
It's more interrupting to see you on the floor. So Rebecca, Don Fishner. Oh, Don's not on the board. He's not on the board? Oh, sit down. He's a spiritual program coordinator. Get up here too. But Anthony is on the board, and he's the center manager. Is that the title?
Oh, you've been saying assistant director.
Assistant director.
Yeah. And guess what? Why? Poor Anthony. Jack.
And Nicole, where's Nicole?
Oh, there she is, Nicole and Peggy. So I know you're not on board now, but when I got here, it was Rebecca, Don, Peggy.
Just the 3 of us.
Yeah. And they got me there. They're the ones who sent my name off to Rinpoche, and so here I am.
That story again.
Yeah. And he, wildly supportive. And it is hard to get things going at a center and to keep them going. It's really hard. And so it's just, I don't know why that is, but it is. It just is. Maybe because we're in the West and we're not in a Buddhist country. And this opportunity for me, it's like when I met the Dharma, and it's like, it just changes your life. It completely changed my life. And people like this are how that happened. The Tibetan Buddhist Center I walked into in Raleigh, North Carolina, had a board. This is how my life is, this is a condition for my life. And I am so grateful. And it's been a privilege to be able to be here and teach Dharma, which basically means I can talk about Dharma all the time, which is like the best thing in the world. So, it's been a privilege to teach you guys. And it's been a privilege to see the changes that the Dharma has made in your, in that stuff. That has nothing to do with me. That has to do with your effort, and, and the Buddhist teachings, so, it's been just really an honor to see those things. And so, so if you ever have the opportunity to volunteer in some way or any way, actually, for a Dharma center, it's huge merit. And you also are providing the condition for the occasional person to walk in here and have it change their life. I mean, talk about being benefit to others. It's just, there's just no better gift than that. So, okay. Really, thank you. It's just wonderful.
And Hope Campstra too are.
Yes.
Yes, Hope is not here. And she has just the wonderful job of the bookkeeping.
And the tax, yeah, that includes the taxes.
Yeah, yeah. That really fun job that, people always thank you for.
So also, just as I look through the room, there's some people that we see every week that come and they help, and their ways that they help. And then there's people that only might come, once a month or even once a year that help. And there's so many people that help in ways behind the scenes that, with helping Venerable Tendron with medical issues and hospital rides and financial help and just all kinds of things and showing up. And so it's,
Yeah, there is no center without you.
yes, exactly. So it's really, thank you. Everyone knows who they are. People who change air filters and lift giant, huge statues.
And put the smoke detectors in the nun department.
Yeah,
And paint
water
art.
bowls.
right. And prepare water bowls and host parties and just all kinds of things, take evening walks with Venerable Tendron, just,
That's right.
it's,
There's take pity of my poor lonely self. I'm having any other nuns to hang out with. So yeah, I mean,
And the
people.
provider of flowers.
yeah, providers of
Flowers.
providers of baked goods,
Yeah.
all, just so many things that, I've,
Our chocolate jar for a while.
and Margaret's not here today. She's so helpful, and Anne, they do so much too. It's really, so thank you, Venerable Tendron, for appreciating us, but it's so many people here that are, we
It
wouldn't
doesn't
be
change
here.
the fact I'm thanking them. This is director speak. But it's true. I mean, this is, there's no center without community. That's the whole point. And so I think Venerable Calden, who's coming to teach next, will not be able to be here in person for a while, so it'll be on Zoom. But please come, because the support for your practice is in the community. It's being together and having like-minded people, or people trying to figure out how to do this. So coming makes it, that's the survival of a center. I mean, because, we all saw it in COVID. It's just like, if you can't, if there's no place to go to, yeah, you can get all the teachings you want online, but there's something about having other people share their experiences, or just so you can look around and not be the, like sometimes after you've been practicing for a while, you go to lunch with your coworkers and you think, I just don't fit in this universe exactly. So it's helpful to have others along the way. What?
Oh, this is funny. I don't belong in
In this,
I think the analogy
realm.
you used, the experience example is very relatable.
Okay, so, all right. Okay. What color you like? Green, blue, yellow, red,
yellows,
your favorite.
greens.
Okay. Come on. Thank you. Okay, Nicole, our former director. What color you
Blue.
like? Blue. I'm so glad you were ready for that.
Thank you, Venerable Tendron. You changed my life, whether you take it
Take credit for it or
or
not.
not.
I'm not going to take credit for it. It's the Buddha. Wow, this has been folded a while. Okay. Oh, I can't even get it over your head. Okay, so hopefully it won't touch the floor.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right. Peggy, not gonna make you stand there any longer. Green, red, yellow, or white? Oh, you're just gonna not tell me.
Whatever comes up first.
Well, I know you like yellow. So. This is for Hope. Hope. Anthony. Green, white, or
Green.
red? You're not gonna get much choices, guys.
Thank you.
They're gonna get in choices.
Oh.
I'll make sure.
Thank you. All right. Done. Red or what?
Whatever color Jack doesn't want.
What color do you want? Oh, well, too bad. These are your two colors.
Red, yeah.
Thank you. Yeah. You could give this to someone else. Oh, you take, all right, no. Pilgrim. I know, yeah. Whee! Oh, that, oh, some of them. All right. Okay, so this is, y'all have a board meeting anytime soon?
We're having one right now.
Well, here,
We do them on Zoom usually, so we'll
Get this
keep
to
it.
Hope.
Yes, okay.
and you could just read it to Hope.
Okay, actually, we have something that can we? Yes,
This is for later.
yes, that's for later. Okay.
This is for the cutoff.
Yeah, okay, perfect.
Okay.
So, we are going to have a traditional offering for Venerable Tendron, and I just want to say that, she came here in 2016. We really tricked her into thinking this was like a really professionally run center, and then she would just slide in and live effortlessly like any revered Buddhist teacher,
We gave her a really good salad.
yeah. And she only stayed here because of Peggy's salad with the bulgur wheat and but Venerable Tendron has, so many times Peggy has said to me, she said, Venerable Tendron really saved us. When we reminisce about the day, she's like, she saved us. And she did. She saved the center and kept it going. And it's just, there's no words can repay or really express the kindness of Venerable Tendron. And I know it's funny for people who have the karma to come here for the first time today. You're getting an interesting view.
Yeah, sorry about that.
But there's so many people here that Venerable Tendron sees and or talks to outside of the center, like going to lunch or just different activities. And like sometimes someone will say, oh yeah, when I was Venerable Tendron, and I'm shocked. I didn't even know that she had a relationship with them, but she has touched and really supported so many people in our community since 2016, in addition to just the Dharma from the books here at the center and practice, but in the everyday practice of can I use the word ministry? And, but really
It's a bit of a reach.
ministering to and really to pastoral care of the community. Really, she's just always there whenever we have needed her and whenever anyone has needed her. So we thank you so much. And
My privilege.
she's been our resident teacher, and her role is shifting so that she can concentrate on things that her teachers have asked her to do. But when this happened, she said, "Well, I could be a snow nun." So the original plan is she's going to be here as it goes now for 3 months every year from January, February, and March is sort of the plan.
Maybe April.
Maybe April. And then when Venerable Calden's schedule changed due to the health of his father, we were out and I said, Venerable Tendron, when are you back from your retreat? and she said, why? and I said,
I've wised up.
and I said, well, we really, if you were free and felt moved to, you could come for September and or October. She said, Rebecca, September's too soon. I won't be finished. She's very kindly agreed to.
Yeah, but a retreat has come up.
Oh. All right. So whatever
We'll see what happens.
whatever the karma is, we'll see. But the point of it is that she's not just leaving us forever.
Oh,
She's-
no.
She's tied to us now.
I'm attached.
Yes. So,
Such a bad luck
karmic
for a
tie.
nun.
But anyway, thank you, thank you, thank you. And if we can get Hernan, you want to participate in this? And where's Jack? Jack? Yeah, no, but yeah, come. Do you have so who's gonna hold it? You wanna have?
And we're very skilled at this part.
Yeah,
Jack can put it- Jack can put the,
Jack, you can hold
the-
here.
You may have to put down your patas, or you do like Jack.
Yeah, you're
Put
gonna,
the table.
Yeah.
no, you hold here.
Okay,
You
don't
hold-
trip over this.
You're
side.
gonna hold the tray, that tray, yeah, and then you can hand to, Hernan can hold it, and then you guys can all hand. Okay, and then, yeah, or, Anthony, you wanna come here? And you can hand to Jeff? Okay.
Yep.
All right, so the mandala offering is on page.
35.
Which one?
Is it 35?
35
Sure.
in the gold book.
Please tell me we're doing that in English.
Oh, yeah. Except for the last part.
For Zoomers, let me see if I can get it.
It's on there. You just have to share it. You want me to
What are you
do
looking
that?
for?
Oh, put the mandala offering. It's on 35.
Thank you.
Yeah, a lot of.
Now, if you've been to anything with His Holiness or a High Lama, it's a little bit more organized
A
and
little further down.
it's smoother.
Yep, there it is.
Okay, Jack, here.
Okay, wait. I need to
share
it.
Oh, you want me to do it?
Oh,
No,
you got
good,
it.
we got it.
And you have the two verses.
Goodness, it's not Venerable Rubina.
Now, the two verses on that page, the next verse, what's the next verse?
Here, oh,
So the one.
no, this is
Music.
short.
Okay.
Short, yeah.
That's fine. Okay. So what the people are doing is they are offering me the best of the whole universe. That's what the mandala offering is. The 5 colored katas that hang from the mandala are represent the 5 Buddha families. That's why they're all these different colors. So all you do is, and you imagine in your own mind, just the best of everything. You're offering it up to all the Buddhas, Bodhisattvas, all that kind of stuff. Okay.
Ground anointed with perfume, strewn with flowers, adorned with Mount Mary, against the sun and the moon.
I imagine this is a
The field offer. May all living beings enjoy this pure land. Idam Guru.
Say it with meaning. And we offer representations of the body, speech, and mind, the Buddha body. I'm gonna bump your head with it now. Bump my head with it. the speech, because it's sutra. Stupas represent the mind of a Buddha. Monk is not the technical term. Hatha. We're always prepared. Thank you.
And then we'll do the dedication prayers?
Yes, let's do the dedication prayers. And then anybody who wants to come up and say bye. We can do that. Right, Jack, I need you to stop the sharing and I'll share. So it's and I'll be giving little prayer chords. Prayer chords. Oh, I'm not doing it very well. Prayer chords have knots in them, and you can't see it from here. The knots capture the prayers. So these have been, these chords I got picked up in Dharamsala. They've been blessed by His Holiness the Dalai Lama and numerous monks with like kind of billions of prayers. You know, so you can, I always wear them around my neck, tie a knot, and then put it, you know, within, so I can take it, so I don't strangle myself when I sleep, and so I can take it off when I shower, so they last a very long time. Tibetans don't. So, but your whole, you know, so you're being protected by the prayers of all these, by His Holiness the Dalai Lama. So, so you get a red one and a gold one. If you have somebody else you want to be able to bring to, just ask me for it. I'll give it to you. So just so you know what it is, get it. I'll be in a little envelope. So, okay, dedications. That's we started with a motivation, the intention. That's the first bookend, and you end with dedication, such as the other bookend. Only I don't seem to know what I'm doing. Thanks for your patience. So take a moment to rejoice in all your positive efforts this morning and all your positive efforts ever and all the positive efforts of everybody else. You know, not just today, but since beginningless time. And rejoice in all the efforts, the virtuous efforts that people will make in the future. It's 100% certain. I wonder when. This is our Buddha nature. Okay, and so now we're just being generous with all those positive effects. May all beings everywhere, plagued by sufferings of body and mind, obtain an ocean of happiness and joy by virtue of our merits. Knowing that they suffer, commit evil, or ever fall ill, may no one be afraid or belittled with a mind weighed down by depression. The blind see forms and the deaf hear sounds. May those whose bodies are worn with toil be restored on finding repose. May the naked find clothing, the hungry find food. May the thirsty find water and delicious drinks. May the poor find wealth, those weak with sorrow find joy. May the forlorn find hope, constant happiness, and prosperity. May there be timely rains and bountiful harvests. May all medicines be effective and wholesome prayers bear fruit. May all who are sick and ill quickly be freed from their ailments. Whatever diseases there are in the world, may they never occur again. May the frightened cease to be afraid, and those bound be freed. May the powerless find power, and may people think of benefiting each other. For as long as space remains, for as long as sentient beings remain, until then, may I tutor you to dispel the mysteries of the world. For the long life of His Holiness, in the land encircled by snow mountains, you are the source of all happiness and good. All powerful Chenrezig Tenzin Gyatso, please remain until the star ends. And then on page 234 of the old book, sorry, I forgot to announce the pages. For the swift return of Lama Zopa Rinpoche, peerless teacher and assembly of the children of victorious ones, Gravakas and Pratyeka Buddhas, victorious Losant father and sons, along with the lineage masters, all the objects of refuge of infinite lands. Please bestow the virtue and goodness of accomplishing this prayer here and now, holding and spreading the Muni's precious and complete teaching, through explanation and practice. You wore the armor of patience that is never discouraged. Incomparable venerable Guru, to you I make request. While striving single-pointedly for the sake of the victorious one's teachings, the sole gateway through which all benefit and happiness emerge, and for mother living beings, you suddenly departed in peace. What a great loss. Nevertheless, through the undeceiving truth of the blessings of the ocean of the three jewels, and the great waves of bodhicitta of the children of the victorious ones, may the smile of a reincarnation swiftly beam in glory for fortunate disciples. Okay.
So the center will be making an offering to Venerable Tendron that is, nothing could repay your kindness. So thank you. Get the real song.
All right. Well, of course, now it's done. It's snag, so, of course. Yeah, I'm involved. Thank you. Okay. You don't have to, unless someone's in your way, you don't have to wait.
I'll stand here and get
Envelope, yes. Can't wait to see
I would love that.
what's in your thing.
For that one.
Yes, absolutely. Anybody else? You want a red one too?
Sure. Going back in mine are fading.
Yes, they do. They do fade.
And I want to save one for Jen.
And they let you do.
Oh, you want me to do these? Hand them to you?
No, I haven't read this. I haven't envelope for anything.
I just need the stupid whack on the head.
Okay. Thank you.